Hi, I'm Carly and welcome to this grocery training series and this module on online shopping. Big thank you to the North Central Regional Planning Commission for partnering with me on this training series. I really appreciate it. So for this module, same as the other 9, there is a folder with supporting documentation that goes along with this video. That documentation is intended to stand by itself, so feel free to jump straight there. This video will go through the concepts document for online shopping and tie all of that together, as well as look at the delivery schedule template that is provided as well. So if you'd like to pull up the concepts document, I'll be going through it point by point. So if you want to follow along or take notes, we'll talk through the website, e-commerce platform, and curbside and delivery. So when we talk about e-commerce proof of concept, as in like why would you spend money and invest your time into adding online shopping to your brick and mortar grocery store, I think all you have to say is COVID-19. That's when our curbside pickup and delivery process really blossomed, and it was in response to a genuine need and demand for curbside pickup option, where that is now basically a new normal for a good chunk of our customers who, you know, there's still the vast majority who come into the store and physically shop, but we picked up a whole pile of regulars who prefer to either shop online, like submit the order online, or we call a couple of customers where online isn't an appropriate option and we do their shopping over the phone. But in either case, we're then able to carry the groceries out the back door, curbside pickup style, or we have a delivery schedule that we maintain and run particular routes on certain days to cater to those customers who are wanting to maintain that method of receiving their groceries. So it really does make sense as an investment to offer these options, especially in today's culture where technology is becoming more and more and more the norm. I see that only ever increasing, never decreasing, and it already is a demand even in a small rural setting. So even if you're not going to roll out a full e-commerce style platform, which is what we're going to talk about for the rest of this video, there are a couple of lower tech ways that you can still offer services of curbside pickup and delivery. The very first way that we started was you have the customer's phone number, you call them, you say, I'm starting in the bakery deli, can I get you anything here? Okay, we're moving on to the produce section, now I'm in the dairy and cheese aisle, and you basically talk them through the store. The alternative of that is if they have their list already super prepared and they know exactly what they want, you can also shop it off their list. That option, depending on their list, how big it is and how random it is, you may ask them to, can you please try to let me walk you through the store and talk you through the aisles and go in order, and you let me know what we need in each category, and then at the end, if there's anything on your list that we didn't get yet, then we can collect those items up at the end. And the goal of all of that thought is, depending on how many orders you're shopping, there can be a lot of added time in somebody saying like, okay, get me a gallon of milk, and that's on aisle 1, and the next thing is vanilla ice cream, and now you're on the opposite side of the store, and now they need cottage cheese, and that's back by where the milk was. So instead of just getting the items right there as you go along, you can spend a lot of walking and a lot of steps zigzagging back and forth getting items off the customer's list. So as gently and diplomatically as you possibly can, ask if they're willing to allow you to talk them through the store versus reading off of their list. Obviously, if they have 3 items on their list, lay them on me. What you got? What do you need? I can grab them up for you. I probably don't even need to keep you on the phone while I'm shopping. And then typically within your POS, there's an option where you can enter a card manually. So that means they can tell you their numbers over the phone, and you can enter that card manually to complete the purchase of their order. then it's just a matter of storing it and either delivering it at the particular time, or when they come to get it, they call the store and you bring it out to them. So that option of shopping for people over the phone, you could start that right now today. And there will be customers, especially elderly, or those I've noticed with like really small kids, a bunch of them, going to the grocery store physically means unloading all those kids out of their car seats, keeping track of them inside the store, and then like loading them all back up, and they would gladly pay a delivery fee so that they can shop over the phone and you can deliver it to their house. So there are people, even in a small rural setting, who are in favor of that option, even aside from the pandemic, but the pandemic really does underscore the whole entire point of necessity. So the online shopping setup guide that I've provided is from the Rural Grocery Initiative, the RGI, ruralgrocery.org. It is very helpful, very, very helpful as far as walking you through step by step all of the decision points included, giving some best practices, some helpful hints for how to make the process as easy as it can be along the way. They worked with multiple grocery stores, myself included, to put this resource together. It's several pages long and highly detailed. So I did want to include that, and I've streamlined what we're going to talk about based on what's in that document. So especially when we get into how to choose your e-commerce platform and what features are you really going to need, that document has a lot more depth behind what we're going to talk about. So first, let's talk about websites. You probably don't need a website just because you're going to have an e-commerce platform. The e-commerce platform will likely be its own website that the provider of your e-commerce solution is going to give you. So that domain, that website address, the URL, it will be there, and you can use that as a place to drive customers directly to the online shopping platform. The problem with that is that it's gonna have the online shopping platform name, the company name, inside the URL most likely. So it's not gonna just be your storename.com for easy peasy marketing, brand awareness with your customers. So you may choose to go ahead and have even a simple website that is your storename.com, so that you can have a button at storename.com where it says order online, and they click that button and that takes them to whatever URL your online shopping platform is going to provide you. So let's say you go that route where you do want to have your own website so that it's super easy to tell people just go to storename.com and you can find our online shopping platform. So there are a couple different pieces of the cost. One is the URL itself, and that's a one-time purchase that you'll make to claim that web address. Think about web address as your literal physical address, but online. So that's how people know where to go to find you. And when you buy a web address, let's say that's like buying your house, and the web address that you buy is the house. It is none of the land around the house. So what that means is if you only buy the one web address like storename.com, that it's possible that somebody could claim storename.net, which is essentially them building their house up against yours. So like no space, no differentiation really, and the chances of your customers ending up on storename.net is entirely possible, and that's actually one of the tactics of scammers and whatnot out there, is to claim a very similar URL and redirect your customers nefariously. So the idea of buying multiple domains is something that you may want to consider, where basically you're going to claim storename.com, and that is the one that you're going to use, that for marketing, you tell your customers to go there. That's how they get to online shopping. You may also choose though to buy storename.net, storename.org, storename.ca, like all the different surrounding domains. And basically what you're doing is like claiming not just your house, but also a plot of land around your house. So again, it's an investment in how much space do you want around your brand, and that tells you how many domains do you want to buy. And so it's a really personal decision, but these are also typically like $11 or $12 purchases, and it's a one-time cost, and then you own the rights to that domain for the rest of time. Nobody else can ever build on that ground, and you basically would just choose to not put a website at any of those addresses, or you can redirect every single one of those addresses back to the storename.com, the primary website address where you're wanting people to gather. The second cost associated with your website is hosting. So this is the power behind how does your website actually exist on the internet, and hosting it's one of those things that I personally don't fully understand. So when we step into deeply technical subject matter, like website hosting, for example, or websites in general, if you have no clue about web design, this is where your technical subject matter expert will be so valuable. So back in the technology infrastructure module, the second module, we talk in depth about PCI compliance, and that is a huge piece of online shopping and your hosting and all of that, but I'm not going to repeat that conversation here. So for more of that, check back to that module. There are timestamps in the description if you want to jump straight back to that section. But with your hosting, there will be a monthly fee that you pay for your website to exist online. Think about from the house analogy from a second ago, where when you buy the web domain, that's you purchasing your house, the space that your house is going to go on. And with hosting, you are deciding how big or small your website is. What features does it have? Is it luxurious? And I'm not talking front end features that the customer is going to be able to see, but think about like your physical house. If it's 100 square feet, if it's a 10 by 10 room, how many people can you fit in that house? Not very many. If your house is 10,000 square feet, how many people can you fit in that house? A lot more, way more. And it's like that. How many square feet is your house? How many people can you host inside your house at the same time? And that's a bandwidth issue. And so that's where websites can crash sometimes, because there's too many people trying to come into that website at the same time. And there's only so many people you can host at once. So if you're like, for example, if you're expecting that your website is going to just exist as this sample page about like, hey, welcome to the future home of storename.com's website, and that's all that's there, and it basically gives the store address and phone number and maybe your hours, and like that's a temporary website that exists and that's all it's for. There's no data collection, there's no button redirecting to another site, there's no functionality at all that the customer can see. So you're not expecting a whole lot of people to spend a whole lot of time at that website. You're not expecting to host very many people at once, and you're not expecting very long site visits. Compared to, let's say you introduced a blog onto your store's website, and that's probably not going to drive like a ton more traffic, but it will add more people spending more time on your website. So depending on how many people you want on your website at once and how long they're going to spend, meaning how long are they going to take up their parking spot in the parking lot, like how many parking spaces exist and how long are they going to stay there. Because if I show up and I park my car and I spend 3 days, my spot's taken for all of that 3 days. So the capacity of the website has to take all of that into consideration. And when you're first starting out, small store, small website, you probably don't need a huge fancy hosting plan. But if you are doing any kind of data collection or e-commerce through your website, that's where PCI compliance comes into the mix, and maybe you need more capacity within your website, so a bigger hosting plan. So all of that is going to drive how much is that monthly fee that it costs to host your website. And for that matter, for hosting, it's possible to install a server at your store and host your own website. The downside of that is, again, this scalability and redundancy that is offered by putting the hosting for your website at a third-party location where that's what they do, like Rackspace or HostGator or some site like that, where they have the ability, if you want to go from a teeny little website to something that is super interactive and drawing all this traffic, they can easily just add another server, add another, just upgrade, like in tiny little increments with one phone call. Like, that's easy peasy. And they have all of these different redundancies. Like, if your one server goes down, your website goes down if you're hosting it yourself and it's reliant on this one server being up and running. And at a system like Rackspace, if that one server goes down, it automatically migrates to another server. And usually they build in, like, there's at least 2 operating your website at any one given time, just so that they can keep a better eye on it and add that extra space or migrate to another server if they need to. And last but not least, your SSL certificate for encrypting your website, that is also going to be an annual fee. SSL is, going back to the house analogy, is like the security alarm system that you install on your residence, where there are certain checks and balances that are being monitored to ensure the security of what goes on at that location. When you click on an insecure website in the search results, you've probably seen it. The first page that pops up says this is not a secure site, and you have to click advanced options to even be able to say, I do want to actually go to this site. Otherwise it says go back to safety. And so when you don't have a security certificate, even if you think my website is low stakes, there's nothing that could happen to my customers, they have no danger of being here, when they see that in the search results, chances are 99% of people click back to safety. So that is the downside of not having it, even if you feel like you don't need it. And also, same as the URLs for buying up the space around your house, the relative cost of investing in the security certificate is relatively small. Last but not least, on the SSL, it is absolutely required on any pages where e-commerce is taking place, where cardholders are inserting their data and sending it through your website. That SSL is the protection that they have, that information is not going to be intercepted between their computer and your website. For other pages, it's not necessarily required, especially where there's no data entry on your website. You're not asking the customer to enter anything. But again, it's still not great for optics, so you may opt to have one even if you're not collecting anything sensitive. And as far as setting up your website, so I mentioned briefly having some kind of temporary website that just says, welcome to storename.com's future website. And that's basically all it is, with just a little bit of information to redirect your customer to call the store or whatever. So that's basically the minimum if you're wanting this option where you can direct people for your online shopping to say, hey, visit storename.com and click order online. And then that button exists on that one page of your website and directs them back to the e-commerce platform that you are provided or that you purchased. So that's the minimum. And if you want more pages on your website, you want a whole menu that has your backstory and a newsletter and the services and all the departments and on and on and on, you want all of that information on there, it's absolutely possible. Typically, you're going to help author the content, and then you're going to have some kind of web designer who's able to put together the pages and the artistry and the design and layout of the actual site using the content that you want to include. So next we'll talk about the e-commerce platform options. And like I said, the setup guide that I mentioned above has a lot more depth back behind this section. But kind of the first decision point is, which kind of a system do you want to invest in? And the options here are either going with a solution that is separate from your POS, and then code and scripts are built to allow the two to communicate as best as they can, given that they are two separate systems. Or the other option is to buy a POS system that allows for a module, a way to use your existing system as an e-commerce site also. So there are a couple of providers who offer that option where it's all in one system. So you're only ever maintaining one place, and when you deploy the changes out of your POS back office, it automatically goes to your cash registers inside the store and your online e-commerce platform. So I wanted to give you just a couple of pros for why you might select each of those options, and then it really does just matter kind of what are your unique circumstances in your situation. So pros for adopting the POS that also allows for the online shopping module. This would probably be most applicable if you are looking at exploring this from before you open your grocery store. So if you are still in the shopping stage of even investing in your initial POS system, maybe this is a factor that helps you to decide on one provider over another because they offer this ability to eventually expand into online shopping, keeping it all under one roof. This is the situation that we did as far as we bought the POS knowing that in a couple years, once we get past the initial opening craziness, we are going to add on online shopping, and this will be a more seamless evolution of that rollout. If you do opt for this option, just know that your existing item file in your POS back office is what will drive what shows online. There are, depending on which provider you go with, there are a couple different ways that you can set it up to decide like everything in this particular department is going to show up online, or you can mark it at an individual level to say do show or don't show. So it really just depends on what works best for you and how clean your item file is. And this is again kind of a, if I knew then what I know now kind of thing, our item file would have been kept a lot cleaner, especially when we were opening using the DSD vendors product lists that they provided us. We talk all about DSD in module 6, and I entered basically all of our DSD vendors' entire list of products, thinking that that would cover us then for any new things that got brought in or whatever else. What it did though was give us a lot of stuff in our item file that we've never carried, don't intend to carry. It's not a thing. So when we did eventually roll out online shopping, there was a lot of cleanup that needed to happen to the item file, where we organized the items into what do we actually carry inside the store, so when a customer buys it online we can actually fill that order, and what needs to be retired and cleaned out of the item file so that it doesn't show for customers online. As far as how we did that cleanup, we looked for item movement where the item had not been sold in over 12 months, and anything that hadn't been sold in the last 12 months got automatically retired. And from there it was a manual review, and we did go through more the recent movement, so pulling the movement from the last 6 months or so and looking at how many have we sold and narrowing it down as best we can. And then from there, every once in a while when somebody places an online order, they order something that comes in on the picking ticket, and we know we don't have that item in the store, we know we don't carry it. It was one that slipped through the cracks of that manual review process. Easy peasy, we ask the customer if they want to make a substitution, if that's possible, and then retire the item, and so nobody in the future goes ahead and buys it. The pros for ordering a separate system are basically that it's cheaper and faster to roll out. But like all things, you get what you pay for. So there are downsides. The downsides are basically that it's not doing the what the module is doing, where it is so automatic. It's just the same data file. There's no, oh, the changes didn't copy to the online shopping site, or I deployed the sale on my POS and it didn't move to the online shopping site. What do I do? It's two different systems. So where the breakdown occurred is anybody's best guess, and those issues with data feeds can take a long time to sort out. So when it breaks down, you have two parties who are basically like, I think it's this guy, and then they're like, no, I think it's this guy. So having something where it's just all under one roof really does make life easier. You know right whose problem it is. It's your POS vendor, because it's their online shopping site. So it's one phone call every time, and they sort it out internally. So that's really nice. So the pros though for the separate system: cheaper and faster to roll out. If you talk to your warehouse and your POS provider, they can each provide you with a list of online shopping sites that they are familiar with, as far as like buying an out-of-the-box solution that is super easy to have up and running in a very short amount of time. But either it exists off of a separate item file, which is the fastest way to get it up and running. That'll be immediate. You just tell them, here are the items that the UPCs that I want to display on my site, and they launch it. It's easy peasy. It's going to be copy and paste, a cookie cutter version of a lot of other online shopping sites, like they almost all are, but it's like fast rollout. So from those recommendations, you can seek quotes and set up product demos where you can join online meetings with these vendors to see their site and hear about their implementation process. What does that involve? Again, with quotes, we're always wanting to know time and money, and understandable that those things are difficult to predict in some circumstances, and there can be vendors, especially on the time axis, that they are very hesitant to promise timelines and things like that. That's totally fair, but I understand you can't make me promises, but I do need you to talk me through the various scenarios and what would cause this to go the fastest. What are the potential things that could slow it down? What options, if I select them, am I signing up for added development time? These kinds of questions, so that you can get a good feel for the timeline of each option. And then from there, again, you're going to pick whatever works best for your unique circumstances. So one of the main considerations when you're choosing the full functionality of your online shopping site is which payment methods will you accept. And this is another good question to ask in those demos that you join with any of the quotes that you're considering, any of the systems you're considering, because they may or may not be limited on the payment methods that you will be able to accept. Don't automatically assume that just because you can accept it inside your store means you can accept it online. A perfect example of this is only recently was it extended and allowed to where you could use SNAP benefits or EBT in online purchases. It used to be you had to use that at a physical brick and mortar store. That rule has since changed, so far as I know, but again, that's a good example of make sure to ask what the available payment tenders are. Another good example is your store's gift card. Again, don't automatically assume that store gift card will be an acceptable payment method on the e-commerce platform. The two will have to be integrated to be able to work together. So making sure that whoever the online shopping site is confirms that your gift card will be acceptable would be a good thing to know before you purchase the system that you end up with. Obviously, debit and credit cards are preferred. Those money transfers are basically automatic and instant. Cash and check, as far as allowing those payment tenders online, are a liability, because basically you could shop that entire order and the person shows up and the system won't accept their check, or they don't have enough cash given the amount of the order, or whatever it is, and basically you're wasting your time in shopping the order. But if you want to allow people to pay by check or cash, typically those options are available. Just probably a best practice to not include those in your list of available tenders. Another really critical option is the choice of whether or not you will allow customers who set up an account with your e-commerce site to store their card data within their account. Think Amazon. When you check out on Amazon, it gives you a whole list of here's all the last cards that you've used on our site, and all of them are right there. They have all but the last 4 little X's. They're all covered up and secure, and you just have to click a button like that's the one I want. And that's super convenient, and there's a reason why a company like Amazon would invest in the intense security you would want to have around your site if you are allowing not only customers to give you their card data, but it's on file, meaning it is sitting there and it is vulnerable to an attack or a hacker or any kind of security breach. If you are storing that data, you are now responsible for that data, and if that data ever ends up in the wrong hands, that is your issue. That's like, I think there's an insurance policy for basically data security breaches around your PCI compliance that says I'm PCI compliant, meaning I'm doing everything I need to be doing to keep your data safe, but there are so many advanced technical options out there for how, they can find holes and whatnot in there. So, heaven forbid something happen to your customer's data, you can have an insurance policy for when they will inevitably sue you for losing track of their data. That's one option. The other option is don't store their data. So that's my best advice, is just don't allow them to put a card on file that is too much of a liability and a risk. And even though it is more convenient to have it on there for them where they just have to, yep, that's the one I want to use, making them re-enter it every time, like obviously that's not quite as convenient, but as far as the store's interests are concerned, it is a whole lot more secure for everybody involved and a lot less risk involved. You'll probably get to decide if you want to allow customers to check out as a guest, meaning that they would not log into an account. And again, this is kind of a personal decision, because on one hand, it offers an added layer of convenience where they can just more easily click, 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 and they're good to go. But on the downside, you lose the ability to track the loyalty data, as in how often are people coming back? Are their basket sizes going up or down? You wouldn't have any pinpoint to tie that customer's order that one time to their entire order history. So it just depends on what your priorities are. A couple options for age-specific items. So this would be like tobacco or alcohol, where there is a minimum age that you have to check their ID and all of that. So when you're offering online shopping and that the order is going to go out through curbside pickup or delivery, that means that either option one is that you make processes around those age-specific items, like when I take it out to the car, I check the ID if there's alcohol. That creates an added layer of complexity in curbside pickup and delivery that we're going to get into in the last section. But if that's what you want to do to like boost the sales of alcohol, for example, by allowing it to be bought online, then there needs to be a process to make sure that the person who bought it is actually old enough. Again, the flip side is just don't offer it online. They have to come into the store where the process is already well established for the age verification to take place. And last but not least, the curbside pickup and delivery options, as far as the schedule of when and how often and how many orders can be picked up from the store. So imagine, best case scenario is that everybody wakes up tomorrow morning and decides, I want to place an online order with your store. And that's great. That's what we want. We want to sell the groceries. The check and balance here, though, is the schedule that will be in place behind the scenes that will basically, for every option on the curbside pickup schedule that you create, let's say one option is 1 p.m., another option is 3, and then another option is 5. And those are our options. And we will say for 1 p.m., I will allow up to 3 orders to be picked up at 1 p.m. Or I want no more than 100 items to shop that are going to be picked up at 1 p.m. So there are probably multiple ways that you can limit how much are you signing up to be able to deliver at 1 p.m. And so that obviously reflects your staffing and your scheduling and all of that. You have to make it make sense with your staffing. So again, of course, it's more convenient for somebody to submit an online order and be able to pick a curbside pickup time 2 hours from now. But being ambushed with that order, especially if your volume of orders fluctuates a lot, like it's really sporadic, offering that kind of a lead time doesn't really make sense versus, if you want to pick your order up at 5 p.m., you need to place your order no later than noon. And if you want to pick your order up at 10 a.m., you need to place your order by 5 p.m. the day before, because we're going to shop it the night before and it'll sit in the cooler overnight. We open at 10, here's your groceries. So it really depends on your staffing and how busy you are. If you're busy enough with your online orders to keep a shopper going constantly and they're there full time every day, all day long, then maybe you can offer a shorter lead time and loosen that schedule up to where it's more convenient for customers. But while you're starting out and it's sporadic and intermittent that there are orders coming through, chances are it'll be employees who are doing other things that go ahead and shop those in between their other tasks. So having a longer lead time may be required in the beginning. So for the setup of e-commerce, chances are, rather than building your own e-commerce platform, which is a very grueling process, you are going to buy a platform from a vendor who offers these to their customers. And with that, all of the functionality will come out of the box, meaning it already exists and it's there, and it's your customers make an account and all of that's good to go. There are a couple pieces though that are the store's responsibility to populate within the online shopping platform or the POS to make everything work together correctly. So one of those is the pictures of the items that are showing on your online shopping platform, and the second are the shelf locations of those items inside the store. So the pictures of the products, let's say you have 6,000 items in your store, so you want those 6,000 items to show online. Your e-commerce provider likely has a stock package of images that they will share with you, and what proportion of your items that covers will depend on your store. Maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 50%. You just don't know. It depends on what you carry. If you carry a lot of specialty things, chances are it's only going to cover 5 or 10%. So there will be a lot of pictures to take and put into wherever you're supposed to store them so that they populate onto your online shopping site. You absolutely can find pictures of products online. However, if those pictures are copyright protected, you cannot use them on your website. So if you're going to go online and search for pictures of items, you have to do a copyright check on every single image that you are wanting to use. The alternative is taking pictures yourself. So when it comes to how to know which items need pictures, there are two ways. One is to pull a report of the items that do not have images showing online. And depending on the setup that you've selected, that's either going to come out of your POS system or come out of the e-commerce solution that you purchased. So that report may be really handy when you have all the pictures taken, and maybe you pull that report once a month and it's showing you 10 things that are the new items that you got this month, and you need to take these 10 pictures and now your online shopping site's all caught up. When you're very first starting out though, and that list is 6,000 items long, that is a very inefficient option for you to look at that list and to shop the items basically that are on that list and take pictures of each item one at a time. So a little ways into it, after experiencing the inefficiency of trying to use that list, we began going onto the online site and basically putting from the one department, like there's, snack crackers is a department on our online store, and click on that and here's all the items that are snack crackers. And I made a basket out of all the snack crackers that didn't have a picture, and then submitted that online order with the note, do not fill this order, this is not real. And then on the back end, I can just print the picking ticket and then delete the order. But that picking ticket then is all of the items that need pictures out of this one section. And it made the shopping so much easier and the putting away so much easier when you're tackling it one department at a time, one category at a time. So that's an option for, especially when you have a lot of them to do, organizing the pictures that you're taking is a great way to save yourself some time. When you're taking the pictures, likely when you save them into that folder, there will have to be a particular naming convention used on the image so that the system, when it pulls what images are in this folder, it knows what to do with those images on the online store. So in our system, you save the picture by its UPC, the full 13 digits, you put as many leading zeros on it as you need to. And when it has that 13-digit file name that is the UPC number, the system that pulls the images checks every single UPC online and finds the corresponding image and puts it there in the search result in the item profile and populates as many images as it possibly can. So that means that not only do you have to take all of these images, shop for the products, take their picture, put the products away, there's also then the step of naming each file. And so how we handled that was to and maybe you have a better solution, but take a picture of the front of the item, which would be the picture that is used online, and then immediately right after that, take a picture of the UPC code, the barcode that is on the item. And so right there together, you have the front and you have the code. And then our POS provider was kind enough to reprogram one of the hand scanners, the little gun that you use up at the register to beep, you know, a big bag of dog food on the bottom of the cart or whatever, to basically use one of those and be able to scan that second picture that had the barcode in it. And the hand scanner was reprogrammed into a wedge keyboard where it was able to beep the barcode and translate it into the file name of the image as the UPC. So that made that process go a lot faster. Otherwise, you are reading the number off of the barcode picture and typing it into the file name on the front of the image picture. So it's whatever you want to do, but to us, it was way worth it to have them install whatever technology they did on that hand scanner to let us just beep the picture, beep the picture, beep the picture, beep the picture. It was way faster than having to like manually type in every single UPC. So shelf locations come into play when we are printing the picking ticket. So imagine, best case scenario, somebody ordered $500 worth of groceries out of your store. It's going to take like 2 carts to shop all this. And imagine there were no shelf locations and it was just a random list of items. It's the same as what we talked about at the beginning with like, first you got the milk and now you're on the other side with the ice cream and now you're back over here with the cottage cheese. That makes it take so much longer, and the bigger the order, which is the better the outcome, that's what you're hoping for, the worse the problem becomes in terms of how chaotic it is and how long it takes to shop those orders. So going through and scanning in the shelf locations for each item allows the picking ticket to organize itself in order. And basically you find out how is the picking ticket going to order itself. So like ours, it's alphanumeric and it just puts it in order. So that means that whatever the first section is that I want to be shopped, that needs to be section A. Whatever the second section is needs to be section B, and so on down the line. And then within section A might be, you know, aisle 1, the dry goods side, and that's A. And so A1 is the first 3-foot section on that side of that aisle. A2 is the next 3-foot section, on and on and on, all the way down. You might choose to do like what addresses do, where it's like evens on one side, odds on another side. So like A1 may be the first section of the dry goods side of aisle 1. A2 may be the first door of the dairy section, which is right across from that. So it would allow you to go down the aisle and be shopping from both sides of the aisle at the same time. It would sort them all together. So obviously that would be ideal as far as, again, reducing how many steps your shoppers have to take through the store to gather up these items. As far as which sections you want to be shopped first and last, some thoughts around that. So one is meat department orders. If there are things like deli meats and cheeses that are going to need to be sliced to order within the meat department, and maybe that is section A, so that your shopper can go drop off the order of, here, I need you to slice this meat and cheese, and I'll be back to pick it up after I've shopped some of the rest of it. So that's one thing that you might consider. If there's anything in your store that requires a little bit of lead time, go ahead and get that started first and then shop the rest of it, come back there at the end. So that's one. The other piece is keeping in mind that, again, if you have a big order and it's going to take an hour, 2 hours to shop it, which is, again, best case scenario that you have an order that big, you want to make sure that the cold and frozen items are the last categories to get shopped, because if they are first and then you have a big order and you spend a lot of time shopping after you've gotten the ice cream out of the freezer, obviously that's not ideal. So you want to label those categories as last. So this last section under e-commerce is just a general order flow of what you can expect when someone shops online at your store. How does that work? So the first step is they place their order. That generates an email to the store notifying you of your new order. At that point, that email tells you, when is this order going out? and it's your decision of when do you need to print that picking ticket, when do you need to make sure somebody's shopping it. So there's probably a manager of some sort who is receiving those emails and managing printing the picking tickets. Or if you're further along and your online shopping orders are more regular, maybe there's an employee who comes in to do the shopping every single day, and every morning they come in and they print their picking tickets, a whole stack of them, and they go and they do their orders. So it really depends on how much volume you're doing through your online store. So once you print the picking ticket, you'll go through the walk path of the store, gathering up any of the items that have been ordered. You'll make note on that list of anything that is either out of stock or maybe you don't actually carry it, where something has slipped through the cracks and it's showing online, but it's not actually available in the store. So in that case, if you make a note, you can call the customer at the end to talk through the substitutions, or if they want to make substitutions, letting them know, for example, hey, we're out of the Sara Lee wheat bread. Do you want the best choice wheat bread? Do you want the honey wheat bread? Obviously you're trying to get them to make a substitution. You want the basket size to be as big as it can be. Also, the customer ordered that food for a reason, they need it, and offering them substitutions is at least doing your best to fill their order as best you can. So once you've gathered up all the items, you'll pull the order up on your POS, on your cash register, and that is going to put the order on the screen and let you do what you need to do to finalize it. So let's say the customer ordered one item, a jar of mayonnaise, you got the mayonnaise, went to the thing. You don't need to change anything. They ordered something, you gave it to them. You just need to finalize the payment. Let's say they ordered $500 worth of groceries, a whole bunch of meat and cheese, a bunch of produce, all of this stuff that, one, is weighable. So let's say they want a pound of apples. The chance of you giving them a pound of apples is extremely unlikely. Chances are you're going to give them 0.95 pounds of apples or 1.1 pounds of apples, something like that. So instead of their 1 pound of apples, you need to update that item to the quantity that they actually got. So that's one example. Deli meat and cheese, same thing. They ordered a half a pound of mesquite turkey and you sliced it and it's 0.52. So updating those items so that they actually reflect what the customer received. If you made any substitutions, like in the bread example, they ordered Sara Lee wheat bread and they said, yeah, the best choice wheat bread is fine. So you need to void off the Sara Lee wheat bread, which is obviously more expensive, and then scan on the best choice wheat bread, which is cheaper. And so now their total reflects that they actually made that substitution. If the item was just flat out of stock and they didn't want to replace it with anything, obviously you just void it off the ticket completely and they'll have to get it somewhere else, or maybe they didn't need it that bad. And once you have all of these adjustments made so that what's on your screen matches what's in the basket, then you're ready to finalize the payment. So if they've done debit or credit card, you should just be able to click it and it'll finalize the card that they entered. Or if they're paying by cash or check or some other kind of method that you're going to have to interact with them once they get there, you'll suspend the order in its now updated form so that you have the exact total. Maybe you call them at that point to let them know, hey, I know you're paying in cash, for example, and I just wanted to give you the total is $86.25 so that you can, whatever, bring the right amount of money. Once you finalize the payment on your end, that's when the customer gets a receipt saying, here's your finalized order and total and all of those things. That obviously only works if you do finalize the payment. So in that cash example, they're not going to get an email because you left it open because they haven't paid for it yet. So once you've finished at the register, now you're sacking the groceries, putting them away in the proper storage. So we're going to get more into this when we talk about curbside pickup and delivery, but obviously temperature matters, especially the longer the order is going to be with you. You have to store it at the right temperature, otherwise that's damaging the quality of their food products. And at the scheduled time, either curbside pickup or delivery, the order goes out. So here we'll dive into curbside pickup and delivery and some things to keep in mind. So like we said, this is possible to offer without an e-commerce platform. You can shop for people over the phone. You can let them send you a Facebook message with their list. You can create an online form where you say, maybe there's just 10 questions on this form. And question 1 is, what produce do you need? What dairy items do you need? What meat items do you need? And it's just a text box where they type in, I want 4 apples, 4 gala apples, 4 oranges, 5 bananas, and then it's organized into that output. And same with the e-commerce platform. When you go that route with an online form like that, when somebody submits one, you'll get an email. So one such example of a platform like that is Jotform, and you can create a form for free. You just give people the link. So maybe you post it on your social media like, hey, if you want to submit an online order, fill out your list here, and we will shop it and let you know when it's ready. Maybe there's a question at the bottom of the form that says, when do you want to pick this up? And they can let you know. So there are less technical ways to get started. And so even if that's why you're here, is how to offer curbside pickup and delivery without an e-commerce platform, most of this is all going to apply. So the main thing with either of these options is storing the order. So that sounds really simple, and that is exactly what I thought. It is so much more complicated than you would think. So this following list is basically all the pitfalls that can come with storing the order. So obviously somebody pays for their groceries, they want to make sure that they get their groceries, whether you're delivering it or they come for curbside pickup, they call you, they say, hey, I'm here to get my order, you take it out there, they go home, they realize, I'm missing all my paper towels, my case of water, and my frozen stuff. Like, can you see if you still have it? Oh, yep, there it is. Sorry we didn't give it to you with the rest of your order. So these kinds of instances are really frustrating for the business and the customer, and hopefully you have loyal customers and they're forgiving of any mistakes that you might have like that, but some of these considerations hopefully will minimize any of those kinds of things if you're building this into your process from the get-go. So quality assurance in storing orders. The best solution, the simplest solution that I've seen that we use is to have letter set boxes or numbers or however you want to label them, so that you have a box that says A, dry, A, cooler, A, freezer. And when you put an order away in the A set of boxes, you will put the dry box on the dry shelves, the cooler box in the cooler, and the freezer box in the freezer. And when somebody calls and says, hey, I'm here to pick up my order, you go on the board, you look for their name, they're in the A slot. So I'm going to round up all the A boxes and I'm going to give them everything that is in the A set of boxes. Obviously, if they don't have any freezer items, for example, you could take that freezer box and put it inside the cooler box or the dry box, so that when they get the dry box, for example, they see, here's the freezer box, I know they don't have anything in the freezer. What you don't want to do is be like, oh, I don't need the freezer box because they don't have any frozen items. That's assuming that the person who then has to go grab the order when they're there to pick it up, they're going to be in the freezer looking for the freezer box because they need to get all 3 boxes. So you have to put that box somewhere, even though you're not going to put anything in it, just so that the person QA/QC wise who is getting the order to take it out to the customer knows with 100% certainty that they have all of those customers' groceries. These boxes don't have to be anything fancy. We used old freight boxes, like especially the produce boxes and the meat boxes are very sturdy. Like the bell pepper boxes are mysteriously very sturdy to hold up over time. So this doesn't need to be a huge investment. We used old produce boxes and scale tags and wrote on them with a Sharpie. So you could set up these boxes in no time flat, and then you just get yourself a whiteboard where, again, we used electrical tape to box out some spaces where we could say this is the A set, and we put the person's name there who is put away in the A set, and when they call, oh, there they are in the A boxes. So I get all those boxes, take out their groceries, and then I erase their name out of the A set and put the A set of boxes back in the empty boxes area. So the other pitfall that can happen is when you are storing big orders. So again, this is best case scenario that you would have big orders, and turns out that's again where it gets even more complicated to make sure that you are maintaining accuracy of the order. The reason for that is that your letter set boxes are likely only so big. So let's say even you are going to use a green bell pepper box and it's huge and you can fit a lot of stuff in there. If the person orders 5 cases of of water and 3 things of paper towels and 2 big bags of dog food and on and on and on, it's not all gonna fit in what is even maybe a big box. So now you have pieces that are belonging to this order that are not going to be able to fit inside of one set of boxes. So you have a couple different options here. The first is that you have what are called extra pieces, meaning, okay, so here's their whole box of dry groceries, and then right next to that is a case of water, and this belongs to this order. But if you just set a case of water next to this box, you know, an hour later, you put away another order, you set another set of boxes right on the other side of the water, both are touching the case of water, which order does the water go to? So you obviously need to label the water itself with the letter set of boxes that it belongs to. So like in that instance, we put a sticker on the case of water and we write A on the case of water. So if it's sitting between the A box and the B box, we know that it goes with the A box. That's part of it. The other part of it is, you know, the person who's gathering up the order, they are mostly trained to gather up all 3 of the boxes. That's what you need to do. That's the main recipe for success when it comes to curbside pickup or delivery, is gather all 3 of the boxes. And if you can do that, you are 99% of the way there. And inside the dry grocery box, then you put a large colorful card inside the box so that they are bound to find it when they are unloading out of the box. You put that card in there that says extra pieces. And so they got the dry grocery box, they're sending it out to the customer's car, and now down at the bottom is this card that says extra pieces. So now they know to go and look for the extra pieces that are present on the shelving somewhere and make sure that those do go out along with the rest of the order. The other option is to use 2 sets of boxes. So let's say what they bought was just a lot of groceries. It was $500 worth of groceries. There wasn't any cases of water or paper towels or like anything huge where it doesn't really make sense to use a whole nother set of boxes. But if it's all groceries, maybe it makes sense to put them in the A boxes and the B boxes. So if you're going to take that route, which is totally fine, do the same thing with the large colorful card in both sets of boxes and put that there. That card says 2 sets. And so when they find that card in one set of boxes, they know this is not the whole order. I need to go find another set of boxes, because what inevitably happens without that card, even if you have everything right together, you have on the whiteboard, they're in A box and B box, what you'll have is a high school kid or even an adult who's in a hurried moment come in, look at the whiteboard, see, oh, there's their name, the A box, I'm good to go. So you find it, you're good to go, but you're not, because you need to read the next one and like, oh, they're in 2 boxes. So that card in both sets of boxes just makes sure that you're always going to know you don't have the whole order you need to keep pulling. Also on the whiteboard, one way to combat somebody overlooking that there's the same name on 2 sets of boxes is on the whiteboard itself, right on there, that this is the, you know, Thompson order 1 of 2. And then in the B slot, write Thompson 2 of 2. And at that point, that's easy too, as far as like making sure that whoever is pulling this order together is absolutely going to give the whole entire thing. So delivery, all of this still applies because the same process is going to happen. It's just whose car are you loading it into? You're loading it into the delivery driver's car instead of the customer's car. So kind of the same thing as all of what we've talked about with storing the orders and keeping them together and making sure that you have the whole thing, all of that also applies to the delivery driver's car. If that person heads out with 5 different grocery orders and they're going to make a whole loop and go deliver everything, you need to make sure that everything is categorized and organized inside the vehicle so that everything that belongs to that person when you make that delivery stop gets out of the car and in onto the person's porch, or typically that's where they want you to leave it. So delivery is often a competitive advantage, meaning that even if there is another outlet in your town that sells food, chances are they don't deliver, because probably that's going to be something like a dollar store or a Walmart or something like that. So offering a delivery service can be a great way to secure business that wouldn't have otherwise come to you simply because you're willing to come to your customer and meet them where they are. like we talked about, there's lots of reasons why somebody may not be able to drive and come to the grocery store and would really appreciate having that service offered. You don't have to offer it for free, mind you. You can absolutely charge a fee or set a minimum order requirement, but there are people who will take you up on that offer. So definitely something to consider, even if you start small and expand from there. So like which routes and how often you're making deliveries is going to depend on how much demand you have for this service. For example, when we very first started offering delivery, we were shopping for, it was a few elderly people over the phone, and then we would take them their groceries. We did this every Thursday. We did it all at the same time. Like I called them one right after the other. Once I was done shopping for the last one, I loaded up all the grocery orders. I delivered them all at the same time. We did it all as one bulk package. So at that time, we weren't offering this service where you could call us and we'll shop for you today and deliver it today and all of that. Over time, we have enough people getting deliveries where we make deliveries in town almost every single day, and that's a $5 fee for them to get that delivery, and we make enough of them that it's now something that you can call us pretty much anytime and we'll shop your order and we'll make the delivery to you. So I gave a few examples as far as how you might structure your fees and the minimum order amount that you might set. So it may differ between like in town in the city limits versus a further out route that you may drive once a week or however often. So example one is that maybe in town is $5 delivery fee and further out is $15. If you're setting a minimum order, maybe in town they need to buy at least $25 and further out they need to spend at least $75. You can also position it as you can have free delivery over $50 if you're in town and free delivery with over $100 purchase if you're further out. So there are lots of different ways that you can spin that fee, and in our experience, we went from free delivery when COVID first took over. We were making free deliveries to lots of different places, and as the pandemic kind of settled down and we were left with the people who were going to use that service, whether there was a pandemic or not, we began charging a fee, because at that point, it's not so much, pandemic relief service. This is something that people are actually interested in using. So we assigned a fee to it and did not lose a single customer. So the people who are interested in this service likely, like, imagine a non-driving population. They don't have a car expense to spend their money on. Maybe they have seizures or epilepsy or something like that where they can't have a driver's license. So otherwise they're perfectly healthy. They just can't have a car. So all of that money that they would spend annually on their car, they are typically more than willing to invest it into grocery delivery fees, because that's the cost of that convenience. And last but not least, we're gonna look at the delivery route schedule template. This is an example of keeping track of a big delivery system. So if you're running multiple routes with multiple drivers, multiple days a week, on and on and on, there will absolutely need to be some kind of structure to the chaos. And these lists are really helpful to post either online to attract new business into the routes that you're already running to make sure you're getting your bang for your buck as far as the gas money that you're spending, but also that you can post these next to the phones inside your store, so that anytime there is a call into the store around, hey, I live in Circleville and I would like to get some groceries delivered. And at that point, your person on the phone is like, yep, we make deliveries to Circleville on Tuesdays, and we'd be happy to put you on the list to give you a call on Tuesday, and then we'll deliver that same day. So it just facilitates anybody and everybody being able to capture and secure anybody who's wanting to place an order with your store. That's obviously if you're doing the phone ordering system. And then with your online option, perhaps you're only choosing to allow for online orders to be delivered in town. Maybe it's too much to control. Like in our system, for example, you only got to have one delivery schedule. So there's only one option, like either it's gonna get delivered or it's not. There's no way to program in the routes in our system to say, hey, if you're getting a delivery to a Circleville address, you can get a delivery on Tuesday. And if it's a Muskota address, you can get a delivery on Wednesday. So that was a little too fancy for the solution that we have. So instead, we limited it to, you can get deliveries these days, but those are only for Holton addresses. So we put a limit on the zip code of like where you can get delivered from, and have that functionality show on our website. But our customers are trained and we market ourselves as we absolutely can. You can still place your order online and say curbside pickup and then put in the note, this is my order for the Muskota route on Wednesday. So there are ways to work around it, even if your customer wants to submit their order online and can't select delivery at the time of checkout. All right, so that brings us to the end of another module. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, my contact information is below. You are more than welcome to reach out to me. Another big thank you to the North Central Regional Planning Commission for partnering with me on this training series. And until next time, you take good care.